Okay, welcome everyone to the August 25th, 2025 Pine-Richland School Board regular meeting. Please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Williams.
Mr. Morset?
Here.
Mrs. Hillman?
Here.
Mr. Kashani?
Here.
Mrs. Brusalis?
Here.
Mr. Cassidy? Mr. Cassidy? Mrs. Fortier?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Turchick? Mr. Weethorn?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 1.02, student and staff recognition. Mrs. Hassinger?
Pine-Richland High School's dance team won several awards and qualified for the Universal Dance Association's National Dance Competition in early 2026, following their performances at the Varsity Spirit UDA Camp July 15 through 17. All dancers earned superior ratings and blue ribbons for 3 routines. Senior captains Alyssa Mancini, Camilla Rand, and Sophia Whiting were recognized as All-Americans. In U.S. News & World Report's annual rankings of high schools, Pine-Richland High School ranked 2nd in the Pittsburgh area, 8th in Pennsylvania, and 455th nationally. Comparatively, in last year's rankings, Pine-Richland High School ranked 4th locally, 12th in the state, and 513th out of more than 18,000 high schools nationwide.
Okay, thank you. It's quite an accomplishment, Dr. Miller, with the you and staff for U.S. News Reports, once again being up there at that level. So congratulations, and this improvement. So very well done. Congratulations. Moving on to item 1.04, correspondence.
103, recognition
Oh,
of visitors.
oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I had that already clicked. I clicked off of it. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. 1.03, recognition of visitors. How many do we have?
4 signed up. I don't think we have nobody online. First speaker is Mr. Kutlenius, Steve Kutlenius.
Good evening. Let's take a trip down memory lane and listen to the voices of visitors who spoke at the October 23rd, 2023 board meeting. They're the reason why I am here.
Actual content. And I really believe that one of the main things that is the heart of this school board is to protect children from pornographic and explicit materials that can be found in this library.
In our schools, in our public libraries, there are books that promote promiscuity, pornography, and all of the harm that brings with it.
Be on notice that every one of you one day will answer before God for how you vote and how you live and for what it is that you do. Each and every one of us will give an account of that. And what we do with our children and the authority that we have, God holds us accountable for. And if you think about it for a moment, when you start giving children and teenagers the opportunity to pick their gender and to be able to read this type of promiscuity and how to put on a condom and all this type of filth and things that are coming
in our community, so-called book banning. Well, I call it another way, anti-porn or porn. Pick your poison. Sexually lewd and explicit materials accessible to minors have been available in the database called Destiny at our high school.
Whether you are a Republican or Democrat, this really doesn't matter to me. If you view the issue of pornography being in the public school system as acceptable, you are part of the problem and don't get comfortable in that chair. I hope that you are voted out on November 7th if you support that kind of field-up.
Where are these crusaders now? Why aren't they here every day demanding action? If these books are really pornography destroying children's lives, they must be removed from the library immediately. Christina Brusalis, Leslie Miller, Michael Weethorn, and Phil Morset ran on the PR Kids First platform to purge sexually explicit content from our schools. On March 17, 2025, you passed Policy 109.1 to do exactly that. It has now been 161 days, 5 months, and not a single one of the 14 books challenged back in 2023 have been requested to be removed from the library. Not one. Why not? The answer is simple. This was never about protecting kids. It was about politics, fear, and grandstanding, and once you got your policy, you vanished. So yes, I'll say it plainly. You are hypocrites, frauds, false prophets, and you should be ashamed of your action. You spent countless hours debating policy that was about saving children from filth, but when given the power, you did nothing. You should answer not only to this community, but to the God you claim to serve as well. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is John Elston.
Hi. I'm a parent of a junior at the school. It's my third through the district. Been to a few meetings, but not a regular attender, so I apologize if this has been addressed in the past. But my purpose tonight was actually a big complaint and maybe some encouragement. But after seeing how things have started this year, I'm pleased to switch that to just encouragement. The topic I wanted to address is cell phones in the classroom. We all know that this anxiety problem is ubiquitous. It's a real issue, especially among girls. At home, we've been diligent about setting boundaries, so much so one of my daughters calls me Amish. Despite that, the problem still found its way into my house, and it created some very serious challenges for us. Now your policy, and I like the flip book version the best, it says, it must be kept turned off, out of sight during all instructional periods and activities. Smartwatches, GPS-enabled watches fall under this category. If they become a disruption to the educational process, they'll be kept in a safe place by the school until appropriate arrangements can be made for the collection of the devices. Classroom teachers may require students to turn in their phone into assigned space upon entry into their class. And I'm here to tell you, a couple years ago, enforcement was non-existent, spotty at best. But this year, I'm informed it's been noticeably different. My daughter, she admits she's way more engaged, and she and her friends tell us the days go faster and better without the distraction of their phones. So I feel like you're breaking the trance. I think you could still tighten it up. I think there's still watches and things like that. But with that, I actually kind of want to applaud you for and encourage you to encourage the staff to keep it up, to press on, to make this enforced throughout the district because it's working, at least in our house as I speak for my own kids. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Ben Ward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ben Ward, and I'm a senior at the high school. I noticed that the library weeding is still on the agenda 5 months after you passed the required legislation to be able to ban books. And as long as it's still on the agenda, I think it's important for people to bring awareness to this issue. So tonight, I'd like to share a little personal story that might help you better understand the daily struggles that all minorities face in some way. From the moment I realized I was gay, I knew exactly what would happen if I came out. I'd lose friends, and I'd be the punchline of every joke. So I didn't come out, not for a very long time. I hid who I was for years, but hiding something so fundamental about yourself takes a toll. Eventually, it became too heavy to carry, and I decided to stop hiding. I chose to be honest about who I am. Less than a year after that, nearly every friend I had was gone. The jokes were crueler and more frequent. I felt like I was trapped in a dark, isolated tunnel, just hoping to reach the faint light at the other side. And in that darkness, I turned to books. Books became my lifeline. They spoke to me about losing friends, feeling out of place, about questioning identity, and most importantly, about the strength it takes to be yourself. With every story I read, that distant light at the end of the tunnel grew closer and brighter. Those books helped carry me through one of the worst times of my life. Now I stand in a room with people who still want to ban the very books that saved my life. So I ask you, why? What are you so afraid of? Do you think these books will somehow make your kids gay? Because let me tell you something. No one chooses to face bullying, isolation, and hate. In fact, our society is so unwelcoming to the LGBTQ community that some spend their entire lives in the closet out of fear, including many students at this school. That's where you, as our community leaders, come in. You have the power to make a difference, to create a safer, more inclusive school for every student. Instead of banning books, why not expand the curriculum? Teach students about the LGBTQ+ struggle, about 1 Inc. versus Olson, where the Supreme Court ruled that the U.S. Postal Service must deliver LGBTQ+ publications. Teach them about the Stonewall riots, or about how being LGBTQ was once classified as a mental illness, or about the landmark Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act, or about the horrors of conversion therapy. You have the opportunity to show students that being LGBTQ is okay, that it's normal, and yes, it's even beautiful. But instead, you're choosing to help shape the next generation of ignorance and hate. We will not stand for that as a community, and come November, we will remember. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Brittany Kindersmith.
Good evening, Brittany Kindersmith, Richland Township. Thank you. All right. So as we are beginning another school year here, it is disappointing, though not surprising, that we are being met from the outset with evidence of a lack of sound governance and practical leadership from this board majority. The continued use of the opt-in forms for the counseling curriculum is baffling. We are now in the second year of this model where we are asking all families, yes, even those who are opting out, to fill out the opt-in form. This is bureaucracy at its most inefficient. Worse, it reflects a deeper issue, a troubling disregard for budget solvency. Every hour that staff spend chasing down these forms is an hour diverted from actual student support. Every meeting spent brainstorming how to increase compliance with a form that need not even exist is a drain on resources that could be used elsewhere. If this board were truly focused on fiscal responsibility, this practice would have been reconsidered after we saw the numbers of students who were opted out last year. I have noted some online comments recently from people surprised about everything from increased parking fees to missing computers in AP computer programming to the rising cost of football game admission tickets. Fortunately, there are opportunities ahead for the public to pay close attention to the budgetary decisions that are being made. 2 upcoming meetings are particularly worth noting. There is one on September 15th that will focus on personnel and program delivery, and another one on October 6th that will focus on special education, gifted education, and MTSS, which is the multi-tier support system. So that is enrichment and support. Those meetings start at 6 o'clock. They happen before the board meeting. If you are curious about what is going on with the budget, please tune in to these meetings. They will offer a clear lens into where the board's priorities lie, and perhaps more importantly, where they do not. And finally, it is worth noting, as Ben said, that there is an election coming up on November 4th. So if you are watching, and you, like many of us, are concerned with the direction that this board majority continues to steer our district, I encourage you to come to the polls and vote for Augustine, Cafardi, DeLosa, and Becky. Thank you.
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Okay, now we'll move on to 1.04 correspondence. Mrs. Williams.
And before I start, just want to let you know, Mr. Cassidy is online. He was having trouble hearing, so that's why he didn't respond. Okay, the following people emailed the board: Brittany Kindersmith regarding curriculum and fees, Rebecca Hoffman regarding the stakeholder survey, Steve Kutlenius regarding the availability of the October 23rd, 2023 school board meeting video, and Serena Sin regarding the AP Computer Science A course.
Okay, thank you. Move on to item 1.05, minutes for approval. This is an action item. Motion to approve the meeting minutes as attached.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Is that something? No? Okay, with no discussion, move to a vote. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item 2, strategic plan. 2.01 is the 2025-2026 key initiatives. Dr. Miller, we've covered this before. Any more comments?
Yeah, just a few. Thank you.
Okay.
So again, last month we did not have them written. We added them this month just so the community and everyone could see them. I just want to talk for a minute about that first one, future-focused financial health and decision-making. So we do have listed again 4 joint governance meetings. It would be outstanding if we could get as much participation from staff and community in listening to all of the dialogue. We're going to talk about a whole lot of things that directly connect from finance and budget to how we deliver services, resources, supports, even capital projects and capital funding. We are going to need to have and have the ability to have in this room difficult conversations. We're going to have to be able to talk about the $4.9 million deficit that we have as we move into next year. That's our number. We know that the Act 1 index is forecast to be 3.6%. Even with a full index increase, that's 2.3 million. We still have around 2.5 million in terms of the deficit. So when we talk about staffing levels, programming, last year we reduced 10.5 total staff, not teaching staff, but total staff when we count paraprofessionals and other positions. And again, all of that work cut about $2 million from the deficit we were facing at that time. So we face a $4.9 million deficit. I believe our game plan is to have a horseshoe, correct, Mr. Morissette, seating type format. That will hopefully allow us to engage in more of a sort of a workshop style. But again, we're going to need to have what I would call difficult conversations. It's difficult to talk about programs or particular cuts without immediately talking about the ripple effect and impact that that has on students. We see that now in class size, but again, the challenges we're just on the tip of. So I encourage the community, if you can't be at the meetings, we do record the meetings, to watch them, because each of these topics will build on the topic before it. All of that will become necessary, I think, ultimately to make informed decisions and weigh some of the challenges that we're facing. So the other ones, again, are key initiatives, meaning they're impacting multiple groups across the district.
Okay, good. All right, moving on to item 2.02, staff kickoff presentation.
Sure, we're going to do this very quickly. We only have selected slides from our staff kickoff. A couple members of our board were able to hear this portion, but we wanted to highlight that feeling that comes as we get back to school. So we thought it'd be good for the full board, but also for anyone else to really celebrate and hear some of the good news of what's happening. When we have about 500 staff members coming back for that kickoff, and we have the marching band and cheerleaders, we have all color guard, AFJ, ROTC are all present. It's a pretty awesome part of our profession to be able to start that next chapter in the school year. So I'll let Dr. Pete quickly talk about the first couple slides just to get you a sense of what he shared with the staff to kick things off.
Okay. So this slide here, again, most important things we focus on: curriculum, instruction, assessment. We just talked about key strategic initiatives, so the alignment, time, and feedback. We didn't spend a ton of time with our staff on this because we said, again, that's going to be threaded throughout the school year. The focus really for that Friday kickoff was around the foundation that you see there, around the knowledge, the impact, the relationships that our staff have as a foundation for getting into the teaching. We did spend a little bit of time on the sweet spot, that's the star in the middle, and talked about, when you're there and the potential impact that has on student learning is significant. And that's where we want our teachers to be as much as they can, is in that sweet spot when everything is really well aligned. We spent a little bit of time here then talking about, this particular video we shared with the staff a few years ago. but this gentleman talks about a student that came up to him and shared the impact that he had on her life and had no idea what he did. She shared the story with him. It's worth watching that video, but those captions there talk a little bit about what she shared with him. So we talked to the staff about, like, how do you, when you think about 4,600 individuals that come into our school in terms of students, you know, how do you impact them all? And we just kind of said, you know, one at a time, one student at a time, and those little things that you can do for students over the course of the year, you know, what a significant impact that can have. I told a little bit of a story of this kindergartner that impacted me when I was a principal at a different school district, and then I contacted her parent to just share a word of thanks for what she did for me that I keep as kind of a reminder of why we do what we do. And that was meant, again, just to get the staff at that foundational level as you start to get to know your students and back to school and build those relationships. Ultimately, we want to get to the teaching and instruction and learning, but that foundation is just so important. So I talked a bit about impact, and then later on, Dr. J talked about relationships, and then Brian, Dr. Miller, spent the majority of time seeing that connection between the that star and the results that we had this school year.
And we're going to walk
last school
through
year.
that. So this was a slide from the staff kickoff in 2013. So these big ideas of a culture of continuous growth, building from the inside out, that means looking at research, looking at other places, but it really, if you're going to build sustained change in a school organization, you're doing it with the people who are in there every day working together. And then again, collective capacity and collective commitment. So we talked about these ideas that I had shared in 2013 and looked at some of the outcomes of that work over the past decade or so. One of the parts that we wanted to underline and highlight was that idea of celebrating success. One of the challenges is in being part of a high-performance organization is that you're constantly looking for the next step of improvement, and we don't always take a step back to be able to celebrate the successes. And so we wanted to take an opportunity to do that. The board has seen this image. The best part of this image at the top is that not only are we seeing the academic achievement results, but we are also seeing it in the arts and music and athletics. And if you look at every aspect of how students learn and grow, both inside and outside of the classroom, we are seeing the recognition and accomplishments of groups. And again, that happens with families committed to education, it happens with talented staff members, and it happens with students who are committed to continuous, again, achievement and learning. So these were some of the areas that we focused on. The bottom left, the board has seen in the AAGR. So we set a target. It's not so much a goal as it's an opportunity to look at our achievement to see, are we in the top decile in Pennsylvania? And are we meeting or exceeding the growth standard? Those are the two measures we try to hit to be in the upper right-hand quadrant, which is achieving in the top 10% and meeting or exceeding the growth standard. And the example we shared, and we couldn't talk about all of our schools, but we just focused a little bit on Keystone exams, and we see, again, top decile, and in many cases far above that top decile mark, and meeting or exceeding the growth standard. We had previously talked about when students, by the time they reached 11th grade, that in literature was one of those areas where Pine-Richland was number one in the entire Commonwealth. And so again, this is an opportunity for us to measure how our academic systems and all of the people that feed those systems are working together. Dr. Hernandez did a nice job in his opening, and we didn't plan that, of describing that what students can do at the high school is a reflection of the system. That is, the primary schools, Eden Hall, the middle school, students are learning and growing in each step of that. And ultimately, those students reach the high school and are able to perform at high levels. Aaron shared earlier, U.S. News and World Report is not a goal. It's sort of a byproduct. It's a lagging measure, but it's something that gets publicized. The results that she shared for our high school, top 1% of high schools in Pennsylvania. In the nation, top 2.5% of high schools in the United States. And so to take the opportunity with our staff to celebrate those accomplishments is not something we always have the opportunity to do, and so we wanted to do that here. Again, in AP results, we see what was in the annual report, that's in purple and black, but I shared the example of what we'll see the next iteration. And that was the growth we saw to a historic number of students, a historic number of tests, and maintaining that 84% 3 or above in terms of the results. And again, for Pine-Richland, that's part of the AP testing, is that every student in the course takes the test. In some districts, only those students who want to take the test. Here, everybody who's enrolled in the course takes the test as the outcome of that. So again, really positive. We shared some other examples of other schools. But I think what really connects the idea of education excellence and community value were some of these. And I'm not going to talk about them. They're pulled from the annual report, but I will just slowly scroll through them so that the board can again take a look. That's the schools to watch. I paused on the left picture is the Battle of the Books. That's where literally hundreds of students at Eden Hall choose to read many additional books in order to engage in like an academic competition. They come into the gym, they have team name, they have uniforms or t-shirts or things that they have a staff sponsor or a parent sponsor who's part of that. They answer questions. And again, it's just an example of hundreds and hundreds of students in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade choosing to read many other books and study those books in order to answer those questions. And then again, one of the challenges of lifting up and celebrating is you don't want to leave anything out, so we've tried to touch upon, many of the things that are happening across our schools. We are fortunate to have staff who are not just excellent here in the district, but are recognized outside of the district as well. And these are just some examples from the annual report of staff members recognized in the region or state for the contributions they make in their field. This was about organizational health, Falling Water, and sort of making that metaphor and the reality that organizations like Falling Water constantly need attention, and you're working on aspects of the organization just like they work on aspects of the house. Talked about the role of educators as caretakers, and we're here for a period of time. We recognized a lot of retirees who've committed, in some cases, close to 40 years at Pine-Richland, 40 years with families and students, and they pass that baton to the next teacher in that classroom. But what's great about this picture is we see all the various roles represented here, from custodial to paraprofessional to secretaries to teachers, special education, general education, AFJ, ROTC. It's pretty awesome. For our staff, we shared some of the results, not a lot, but at the highest level of what our parents have to say. So the next item on the agenda is the stakeholder survey. We've been doing the parent portion of that for, I want to say, 11 years. And it was a systematic way of listening and asking questions that were important to the district and reviewing those. So in the top green, we see in the most recent survey, 93%. So we talked about and celebrated that with the staff. We can see where some of those results have changed over time, and we talked about that. The reason the 2 years are in gray, we saw right at the cusp of COVID an elevated response in terms of satisfaction, and in the following year we saw pretty much a decline in every area. Doesn't mean those aren't the results, it's still the results, but we saw that pattern across all of the data points. But again, we see academic programs, support services, and again, there's an example, I can't see all the way in the right, but it's 78 or something in the 70s, upper 70s when we started, moving up to 91% in support services and special programs. As we talked about alignment time and feedback, these two data points came out of the survey as one of those areas. So what do you do with the results? historically, we've looked at what are the levels, what are the trends. If we see a beneficial trend, we try to reinforce that as continued action. If we see something that is a concern or a lower response, we talk about that as a team with our staff and come up with strategies to try to improve it. One of the areas of lowest result back when we started this in 2015 was consistency of curriculum and instruction and expectations from the teachers. So that's where we were, and our staff, many in the auditorium, are just proud to see the continuous improvement that's occurred over time with that. It's not one thing at one time, but it's really a commitment over the years. And to see that even with teacher expectations to go from, again, the 50s to 83%, we take that as still an opportunity to get better, but a pretty great reflection with the same exact question and the same responses. So again, we're pretty positive opportunity to celebrate with our staff. I did talk about briefly the budgetary challenges facing the district. That's the operational deficit that exists, and tried to separate that from the capital projects that we also must consider as we maintain the assets of the community. And so the example I gave is if I stood, the middle school is an older building, and if you look at the outside of the building, it looks like an older building designed at a certain period of time. But if you stand in that front lobby as one example, in every direction you turn, you see how we've continued to invest in the buildings, which are necessary to have a good place to learn and work for students and staff. So we see a captured vestibule that helps improve security, a renovated library, the auditorium eventually was renovated, again, a captured vestibule for safety at the front. We see the gym project that the board is familiar with most recently. You're standing in an area that's cooled by the $4+ million HVAC project that occurred with surveillance cameras that are in place because, again, it's all of those investments, and the same thing happened in the classroom. These are necessary capital, but we also have the challenge in front of us, which is the structural deficit in operations. And again, we talked about all that feeding the path that students pursue. This is, again, for me, one of the best pictures every year is just looking at the impact of a quality K-12 education within the community. So 5,000 to 7,000 people at those events, family, parents, grandparents, friends celebrating students as they graduate. And what a profession we get to work in as educators, to see students as they go through all those developmental levels, and then to be able to celebrate not so much the completion, but their readiness for whatever is next for them. For most, we know it's college and post-secondary education, but for some, it's right into the workforce or military or other schools. And then Dr. J finished up.
So back to the relationship theme, we talked about how on our annual stakeholder survey, there are actually 3 different types of relationships that we're asking questions about. And we focus primarily during the day on how students are treating students and how staff and students are interacting. But that third element was something we wanted to pause and talk about as it reflects organizational health. So how staff works with staff, how we collaborate, how we're looking at our common assessment results, we're planning together, we're really working towards alignment, time, and feedback in that way. And so on the next slide, whoever's driving, thank you. We also spoke to the way in which we've approached teams and individual development. So beginning with the senior leadership team and then the principals, and then also our academic leadership council members and building level tech coaches over time. And it's starting to happen in pockets and buildings. We've talked about Patrick Lencioni and the development of an ideal team player and the ways in which a team can really function in a healthy way. And so we took a moment to say if we are working on being humble, which we're coming vulnerably able to really interact, and it's not that we think less of ourselves, we just think of others more, right? And put the organization first in that way. The way in which we're hungry to see those assessment results and really want to get after the hard work that's ahead of us, and the ways in which we're smart, not book smart, but people smart, and our social skills and our way to interact with one another. If we do that really well as people and come as individuals to our teams, we'll be better primed to be able to collaborate to get to that top where we can really focus on results. And all of that, as you can see in the hierarchy, is built on trust everyone being willing to weigh in and have that healthy conflict that can be resolved, and then everyone is able to buy in, commit as a team, and then ideally hold each other accountable peer-to-peer as well. So we're holding ourselves accountable to results, we're holding our peers accountable in that same way. And if we do that, it really makes all the collaboration and everything that we're doing within that model for teaching and learning and our curriculum instruction assessment model awesome. And we can go through those continuous improvement cycles and achieve the better results in the end. So we hadn't really paused to talk about that as a whole group, if you will, K-12, so we thought that was a good time to call it out. And then the buildings were going back and building upon that as they look at the health of their teams and the functioning of each of their grade levels, departments, et cetera.
So a few days of professional development happened before the start of every year. Students started back last Wednesday. Tons of logistics. So not just on the academic side of how we support students, but buses and lunches. We transitioned to Chartwell, so that's a transition. A lot of the staff is the same, but it is a new company. And so a lot of things managed well. Again, it's never perfect starting in a year, but really positive beginning to the school year. So a lot of effort, and it feels good to get into the routine of the new year. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thanks very much. All right, moving on to item 2.03, 2024-25 stakeholder survey results. What I'd like to do is like to hear from the board members on their analysis of looking that over. I'll share with some of my comments first, and then we can, if any board member wants to make some comments, feel free to do that. But and Dr. Miller laid out what his views on the survey, and I agree, it's like a guideline. You view trends. You look over trends to see if you're staying, moving up, moving back. It gives you focus areas that you can put some attention to. But it's one of many data points that you use. And a lot of companies, corporations do very, very similar things like this. And they go through their employees and ask the questions, and they try to come up with any potential trends, focus areas that they need to focus on in the coming years. So as I look through the positives on the parents, I mean, since 2021, and I didn't go back into the gray area, I just started there going forward, greater than 90% were satisfied with Pine-Richland School District. So, kudos to the organization. I mean, it's always above 90%, so there's very high ratings there. Academic results were greater than 85% as you go through there. Student culture, safety, counseling, all greater than 90%, so all very, very positives. Some areas of improvement, understanding the school finance and budgets, was sitting at 65%, but we've got some meetings coming up. The administration wants to share. We've got some challenges. I think there'll be quite a bit of communication on finance and budgets. Some interesting data points, neither here nor there, good or bad, but, greater than 70% do not support increasing class size. So it's an interesting comment that was there. On the student side, I saw positive school welcomes diversity at 88%, pretty flat through the years, so it's consistent as it goes through. Students are treated fairly, sitting at 78%, but relatively flat as it goes from year to year. Areas of improvement, teachers consider my interest and talents in class. It was pretty flat around 65%. I would have thought it would have been higher, but you're looking at your data. If there's opportunities there, you can decide. Teachers provide feedback on progress to students at 77%, pretty flat through the years. And the students treat students with respect. It's been a downward since 21. It's sitting at 65% now, so that would be a little concerning. Interesting data points, 65% pay more attention when they use technology in class. Students are well prepared for college, tech school, etc. There's no trend. It's interesting how it moves up, it moves down, depending on where the survey is being taken. But it's anywhere between 72 to 85% is moving up and down. So there's really hard to see any trends there. So again, it's a guideline. You try to view the trends. You try to find your focus areas, and I think they're doing a fine job of looking at that. And it's one of many data points. But you're asking people whom you serve, the students and the parents. And that's good. So that's who you're asking. And you're also asking your employees. And so that's important as well. Now, those represent the large portion of the administration's universe. Now, there was a 1,059, which was the lowest amount of respondents since 2021, but not a great number to work. It's not like it's going cut in half. It's only maybe a few that's down from there. But does that represent, and it's a question that I don't know, is that less than 50% or 50% of the families that would, households, or the households that you'd have? I don't know for sure. If anybody knows, they can offer that up. So when I looked at, you're capturing feedback about the school board via this survey, and it represents 25% of stakeholders. And the reason you do that is because the school board is not just looking at what households are in the school, but it looks at households across the community, across Pine-Richland. And so we're looking at about 25% of the stakeholders, families sitting in Pine-Richland with students in the class. Now, if every household responded, it'd be 25% per se on the Pine-Richland. But if not all of them responded, you're looking at less than 25, maybe 17% of all families who have children in the school responded. So 75% of the households do not have kids in the school, yet these households fund the school district. They're not represented by this survey, nor should they be. The survey should focus on the school's customers, employees, like I said. The survey should focus on the students, the parents, and the employees there, the teachers, and so forth. Now, school boards are represented by the community at large, and elections determine school board direction, not minimal stakeholder surveys. That does not determine the school board direction, so it's all about the elections determining that. Personally, my view is the survey should not even have school board questions in them, because because it only represents very less than 25% of the community in there. So anyway, those are my views. I open it up to anybody else on the board who would like to make some comments.
I would like to share some comments. One, in an update we received, there are approximately 2,750 unique families, and we serve 4,600 students.
2,750 families?
Correct.
So less than 50%. Okay, thank you. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
And I'd like to pick up from last meeting when Dr. Miller mentioned that survey results drive goal setting. And I think that that's what we should focus on as a board, is to do some goal setting for the year. That's what the rest of the organization does. I think this was a good bookend to the staff kickoff presentation. I was able to attend in person, and I thought that it really spoke to me in the sense of how everything works together, fits together, but one thing missing seemed to be us. It feels like we should be mimicking similar things that the organization that we're responsible for is doing. So that's where I'd like to see us to go in that direction with these results. It wasn't mentioned, but Mr. Kashani took time to speak at that presentation, and he had some moving words about, his history with the district, how he got where he was, and his promise to kind of work with all the stakeholders. And so I think it's a good segue into setting goals for us as a board for this year. And I have 3 suggestions in regards to those goals. One is, I think that we should make a commitment to engage and have ownership, specifically for our future-focused finance discussions. And whenever I say engagement, I mean from each one of us. I hope that we have open communication, and healthy conflict. And that kind of goes hand in hand to what Dr. Miller mentioned about really having healthy conflict. Actually, I think it was Dr. Justice, talking about building relationships, building connections to one another. And I think it speaks to some of the numbers that we see that trended on the downward for us as far as engagement and visibility in the community and also to the staff. So I think that's one way that we could strive, like that's a goal that we could set for ourselves, is just to be more engaged and have ownership of conversations that we're going to have that are going to be really important and have a huge impact on our community, on our workforce, and the work that we have ahead of us. The second thing is committing to visits to schools. We did not do any visits last year, and I believe the year prior we only did one visit. So I think it's important because the impact of our decisions it's going to have on these schools, on the people that go to those schools, the people that work in those schools, and the community that depends on those schools to be the backbone of reasons why they come here or they stay here. So I think that's something that we should do, is make a commitment to visit the schools, try to have as much attendance as possible, and engagement. I think that would improve some of those numbers as well. And then the last thing I think would be beneficial would be to complete and review a board self-evaluation, building a relationship, looking inward, and just trying to improve. I think these are all fair things that we ask of the organization to which we serve, and I don't feel like we're holding up our end of that. So I'd like for the conversation to go to what can we commit to as a board. So does anyone have any thoughts on
Yeah, I have
those
some
three topics?
I have some thoughts.
You have some thoughts too to add? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Fortier.
I can
Okay, go ahead.
respond. I can even respond to her, but I agree with you 100% that our visibility could definitely improve, and I was disappointed that we did not have a school visit this year. Is my microphone on? I think it is. And I asked Dr. Miller in a meeting that we had if I had missed that during my injuries period, because we had the visit that we had the previous year was in the spring, late springtime. So I wasn't sure if I missed it, but I did not miss it. So we had a conversation about how we could make those happen. And we had a conversation about having formal visits, and I would even like to have some informal visits where I could go in, and others as well, just to see what's going on in an informal basis. There's so much great happening, and not even to disrupt, but I mentioned when I was a teacher that I would see the superintendent walking the halls with board members as I was teaching, and so that was just sort of an expectation that could happen at any time in my thinking. But I would be happy to have any conversations with teachers as well. But I'm 100% with you as far as making those priorities, as far as getting those on the calendar and how many we can commit to. Not everybody is free during the day, so that's hard for our working people. And that's not always maybe a reasonable expectation. I know Mr. Wheathorn was able to attend that one that we did the year before, and that's a significant loss for him, for taking time off of work, and that's I respect that commitment, but not everybody is able to do that. So just having some grace for board members in that regard as well. But yes, I'm glad you brought up about the school visits. I'm with you on 100%. I'm not sure what the process would be as far as like setting goals, and if that would be board driven or administration driven, or if that would just be a conversation that we would have. So I'm wide open to that.
And I think if you look at our strategic plan, it's under the school board that we would do 2 school visits. So I guess the question is, who owns that? In my opinion, it would be leadership of the school board, of the board. So I would expect them to make those arrangements and to help facilitate those visits.
How did that visit happen 2 years ago? Was that board
Yeah,
initiated, or was that?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we had a board discussion, and we did work together, and we worked on a date, so
Yeah.
we can move forward with that. We can even do one in the fall and one in the spring, so.
Yeah, I think what has worked the best is to really make sure that the board is benefiting from the visit. So, for example, one of the we have budget on the agenda. So seeing how the budget lives through the operations in the building is important. So an example would be MTSS. We have an intervention and enrichment program that we implement within the day. So seeing a little bit of that program, understanding how the positions and people in those different roles support kids so that all students are learning, that's a good example. Last spring, there was a question about technology at the elementary level, and I think, Mr. Morris, that you asked a little bit about that, the Chromebooks at the
That's right.
elementary level. seeing how Chromebooks are used in a first grade classroom is a worthwhile experience. When are they used? When are they not used? How does it fit within the overall instructional day? And so I would just say, as we visit, we don't want to just be visible. We want to both be visible and engage, and also see some of the very things that ultimately might be decisions for the board.
So is that something we would put on an agenda to then discuss what we'd want to see, like what that would look like for our visits?
Yes.
Or is it as simple as you working
It's
with
not, I don't think it
leadership?
has to be that formal. It hasn't been in the past. We pick a date and then we start to narrow down topics and listen. So it's whatever the board leadership's looking for.
I also,
As leadership, what would you say you're looking for?
I think just as we discussed, we'll pick a date. We'll put that on next meeting. We'll say, let's pick a date, and we'll focus on a date that we can do it. And what will the content of the visit be? Which, Dr. Miller talked, we talked about the computers, and that's one thing that I'd like to see. So we'll have a discussion on what's best to do that. So I would agree on there. Other comments from other board members?
may I make one more comment on that?
Yes.
Same vein, I'm sorry. So I'm also interested, just as we make all these decisions with regard to, let's say, the planetarium and the HVAC and all of these decisions, I would really love to come in and see. I'd love to see the floors and the doors over at the middle school. So I don't feel like that needs to be like a really formal, but is that something that we're able to do? Can we call and say, hey, I'd like to just come and see all the, the structural improvements that we've been making and see those in action.
Yeah.
I would really like to see the food service because I was part of that part of that team that brought in Chartwell's. I'd really like to see how that transition is going.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I think, again, time, it's a question of time, our time and yours. So it's figuring out how to do that. That certainly is much less involved. Seeing the
Sure.
physical plant is far easier to arrange. I would want to, again, and open it up to the entire board, see who can come to make it worthwhile. Doing it as a one-off is very time intensive. Having several board members present would be beneficial.
Other comments from other board members on the survey?
Yeah, Phil, when I look at the survey, and certainly Dr. Miller pointed this out, the statistic of 93% of parents are satisfied with the Pine-Richland School District. So I think there's a certain amount of satisfaction that can be taken in that, and a commendation to the staff, to the teachers, to those who are facilitating that and making that happen. I think Mr. Glickman and I had a conversation earlier this week around the survey, or I guess the middle of last week. To the extent that there's precipitous decline in one area or another, I mean, these are numbers, but there's no why behind it. There's not an explanation or a dialogue between the respondents and the board. So I think facilitating that in some manner to understand what's behind the numbers would be beneficial. I'm not exactly sure how we facilitate that or how that happens, but certainly welcome that opportunity.
Mr. Weethorn, I'm very interested in that, and I'm just curious if you can elaborate more of what are you thinking, mostly parents, staff, like
well, I think the
preliminary, what are you envisioning?
So the parents who are, as happens before and after every meeting, who have something to say generally come before this board and voice their opinions. So I'm more interested in a dialogue with staff. I know in the past, it has been my impression since joining the board that I couldn't pick up the phone. I see Mr. Vins sitting in the back. I couldn't pick up the phone and call Mr. Vins and say, hey, I'd like to have a cup of coffee or a conversation with you without there being some coordination generally through the board or through administration or whatever. So I don't know how that gets facilitated. I think I'd look to Dr. Miller as well as, to try and figure out how to do that.
Sure. So I think board presidents, and Mr. Morset may have as well, have had coffee with Mr. Vins. So I think board leadership has a role. People in positions of leadership, like our PREA representatives or ESPA representatives, I think that's a different circumstance. One of the realities is there is a power dynamic that exists in a school organization. managing that so that you get meaningful dialogue is a challenge. I would welcome this opportunity to talk with board leadership about how to facilitate some of those things. Some of it may involve us, but some as administration, but some of it wouldn't. So again, I'm open to all of that.
Other comments from other board members?
Couple things, Phil. So the answers from the parents to the question, I closely monitor, or the statement, I closely monitor information about the budget development process, never has broken since the time we started, has broken 50%. Our highest percentage is 49% from this year. So it'd be really nice to see that number, to have parents pay attention to how we develop our budget this year. We have 4 meetings on the calendar this fall. It'd be nice to see that number increase. That just stood out. We've never it's just interesting to see how low that number has been, which there's a correlation to the answer to the previous statement. I have a clear understanding of school finance. So you don't have a clear understanding because you're not paying attention. Okay, there's a correlation there. So let's pay attention this year. There has never been a more challenging year than this year. This is my 13th budget. It's going to be difficult. The other thing that stood out, we can easily dismiss some of these numbers as numbers, but the one that stood out which reflects us as a board is the statement that says, I am satisfied with the level of communication from the board. Only 39%, that's pretty putrid. So we can do better. And I know we tried. We kind of got off track, but we should try again.
So, Mark, just out of curiosity, can you elaborate on how that communication, what form should that take?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we can decide that. You know, we tried a couple communications that were just done via email on the budget, summaries of budget meetings, which, you know, we had trouble doing that. So it's up to us. We control it. And it doesn't have to be one way or another, but we can do better. So that stands out.
I agree, Mr. Kashani. The one time that we wanted to send out a communication and then it was pulled, saying that it didn't want to be sent out. So I do feel like there is room for improvement in communication, and there's room for getting creative possibly about communication, two-way. I know that's another strategic key initiative is two-way conversation, two-way communication. And I think it'd be really worthwhile to focus on that, especially this year, especially with the budget and with these numbers that you highlighted about the lack of either paying attention or the understanding of it.
Other board members? Anybody else? All good? Okay. Barb, for the next agenda, can you put on there, visits to the school to decide content and date, and then we'll have a discussion on that.
Mr. Morset.
Yes.
You had mentioned at the last meeting about working with Barb for self-evaluation. Is that still in the works?
Yeah, it's still there. She's got an email out there, and we will probably put that together. I'll speak with the leadership here, and at the evening we'll get that moving forward. We'll get it
Okay,
moving
so
forward.
we will do one.
We'll do one.
And
Yeah,
we'll meet to
do
go
one.
over the results, because I
Yeah.
know last time we did one, not last year, but the year before, we didn't go over the results.
Yeah, we'll put it together. Barb,
So
I'll get with you tomorrow.
You're going to commit to meeting to go over the results, not only doing it, but also going over the results.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
That'll be fun.
Thank you.
Okay, ready? Let's move on to item 3, consent agenda, 3.01. This is an action item, motion to approve the consent agenda, including items 3.02 through 3.07 as listed.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Just a special thanks for the organizations donating to us. We always like to acknowledge that. So Schweitzer Engineering Labs, thank you. PR Touchdown Club, thank you for your donations.
Very good. Other comments? No? Okay, let's move to vote. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, move on to item 4, finance, Mark.
Yes, sir. Item 4.01 is a motion to approve the financial reports dated June 30th, 2025, and accounts payable dated August 25th, 2025, in the amount of $180,004.06, and paid accounts for July, August in the amount of $5,280,929.23 as listed. Financial reports, by the way, financial reports for June 30th, 2025 are not final until the financial audit takes place, which will be later this year. Need a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Any discussion, any questions? Okay, with no questions, move to vote. All in favor?
Yes.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.02 is a reminder that we will not have any budget transfers until October 1st. They're not permitted per the school code. For anybody looking forward to those, you got to sit tight till October. Item 4.03 is an informational item, just for discussion for the next meeting in September. We'll have a motion to approve the first reads of a few policies. Policy 626, federal fiscal compliance, 626.1, travel reimbursement for federal programs, and 827, conflict of interest. I looked through these. Barb, didn't seem to be anything major with the red lines. Okay. Okay.
It was just some general updates, so I did not feel anything major. Maybe one of the more important things is the attachment that has to do with food service procurement, as that is an ask we had per that audit, that we add that along with the with policy 626.
Okay.
Yeah, I found the same as you, Mark. I didn't think there was any, yeah.
So just like every policy that gets revised, we'll have 3 reads, but the first read will be planned for September. Okay, and then another reminder, and we cannot have enough reminders for the 4 meetings coming up. They are joint governance meetings between finance and other topics. So September 15th, Finance and Staff Services to go over personnel and program delivery. October 6th, Finance and Student Services to go over program delivery for special education, gifted education, and MTSS. October 20th, Finance and Buildings and Grounds to go over capital projects, utilities, and debt. And then November 10th, Finance and Operational Services to go over transportation and tuition. Circle the dates. I am serious when I say we should send out communications, Mrs. Hassinger, to the community about those. So it could be a board communication idea that we have them. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Mark. Just for awareness, on October 20th, that's the PSBA conference date, so Mrs. Bristales and I will not be present. We may be
Okay.
able to log in, but just so you're for
Okay.
your awareness.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Moving on to item 5, buildings and grounds. Joe Zeinlein will take this. This is a discussion item. A summer projects update will be provided, including HVAC work for RES and WS, as well as the terrazzo flooring project. So is Mr. Zimmerman online? There he is. Okay.
I'm more set, I'm on.
Yep, very good. Okay, carry forward.
All right. Yeah, just given the last update for the summer projects, as you can see, a lot of the projects are still in progress and will remain so for this into this school year. But I'm just going to recap some of the big projects that we finished up, either a phase 1 or the complete project. So the HVAC projects at Richland Elementary and Wexford Elementary, we were able to finish up phase 1 and get all the rooms cleaned and everything put back together so that we could receive students back for the first day. So it was a very a hectic process to get those rooms cleaned and put back together. Our team did a very nice job of flexing and making sure that those rooms were put back together. Those units in each one of those schools were received just the week before school started. So we had some project delays on getting those univents, but we got them in those rooms and the rooms got cleaned. One highlight of both of these HVAC projects is we had very few change orders this summer. As you might remember, like during the board meetings before, we had a $0 change order and a $2,200 change order. So those are the only ones that came in this summer. We're going to continue to manage this project tightly. They come in on budget. So just felt that those were some highlights. So we're looking for.
Hey, Jeff, just real quick. The new units came in, they're not being used. The legacy units will go through this year. The new units will get finally connected and fired up next year, just so that's not confusing to anybody.
Yep, so within phase 2 for next summer, like Dr. Miller said, we're gonna hook up the new units that arrived this year, and we're gonna install the units that were scheduled to be put in phase 2. So it's gonna be a busy year next year for both the HVAC projects. But along with that, those contractors were told that the units were coming in late, that they needed to prioritize some of the tasks from 2026 into this year, and they were able to do a lot of that work. So we know that next summer is going to be a busy time for them. We've told them that if they have to have additional crews on site, they're going to need to make that happen. So there's a lot of awareness with that. We've also made the orders for those univents that need to come in next year already, so that we'll receive them in the spring and have them on hand before the project even starts next May, at the end of May. Also wanted to touch base on the terrazzo project for phase 1 that was at the high school, in the main lobby when you come in, and the hallway in front of the gym, between the gym and the administration for the high school offices, and also around the library and auditorium. That flooring is completed. It has kind of a matte finish on it, which will continue to get shinier as we run the auto scrubber through this year and run the burnisher. We were given care instructions from the vendor on how to maintain this for a year before we put wax on it. So they asked us to continue to maintain it for a year before we wax it. It should have a gloss finish into next summer. And we'll be starting to plan out phase 2 for that project for next summer. The middle school gymnasium project is complete, except for a couple things that we need to install on the gym hoops. But other than that, that project is done. It includes the flooring, the painting, new pads on the walls. It looks like a complete transformation of that space. And it's a smaller version of the high school main gym. And I think it's for a fraction of the cost that we spent on that main gym. And we got a really nice product over there at the middle school. And I think those students and staff are going to really enjoy that project. As you can see, there's a lot of smaller projects still on the list, like I said, that we're going to continue to work through during this school year. And one of the big ones is we're going to relamp the auditorium, which that project has already been approved. The lights are in hand. We're going to do that in September. So just wanted to let you know we're going to continue to complete items on this list throughout this school year.
Okay, thank you. Kudos to the HVAC schedule and minimizing the change orders, or keeping them to a minimal, so congratulations on that.
Yep.
All right, item 5.02, this is a action item, motion to approve the purchase of 2 replacement diving boards and bases for the high school natatorium by B&R Pools and Swim Shop in the amount of $41,554.58, and the installation of those boards and bases by B&R Pools and Swim Shop for an amount not to exceed $10,000.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion, comments? No discussion, move to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. 5.03, this is discussion item information. For board consideration at the September combined meeting will be a motion to accept, in accordance with Board Policy 702, gifts, grants, and donations. With sincere gratitude, a donation from Pine-Richland Marching Band and Girls Soccer Boosters for an electronic convection oven and cord adapter for a total value of $2,589.05. Okay. All right. Item 6, academic achievement. Christina.
Item 6.01 is a motion to approve the purchase of new library books for Hants and Wexford Elementary Schools as attached.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments, discussion? With no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, student services. Leslie?
Yeah. Item 7.01 is an action and discussion item. The motion to approve the agreement between Wesley Family Services and the District for Child and Adolescent Partial Hospital Services as attached.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments?
Yes, I will abstain from this vote as the law firm I work for or work with represents Wesley Family Services.
Okay. Other comments? With no comments, move to a vote. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion does pass with one abstention.
Okay. Item 7.02 is a motion to approve the attached letters of agreement from the Watson Institute.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments? Discussion? No discussion, move to vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. All opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.03 is a discussion and information item, for board consideration at the combined September meeting, the motion to approve the student attendance and application of the student discipline code for the Pine-Richland High School cross-country team to travel to Hershey, PA from September 19th to September 20th, as described in the field trip request form. Item 7.0 is for discussion and information for board consideration at the September meeting. The motion will be to approve the trip requests listed below to PMEA region and state festivals for the 25-26 school year as applicable per student qualification. And item 7.05. For discussion, for board consideration at the September meeting, the motion to accept in accordance with the board policy 702, gifts, grants, and donations, with sincere gratitude, a donation of $556.55 to Pine-Richland School District from the Special Olympics.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 8, staff services. Mike.
Item 8.01 is a motion to approve PREA, PRESPA personnel and athletic, non-athletic supplements as attached.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? With no discussion, move to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. All opposed? Motion passes.
Item 8.02 is a motion to approve the psychological student practicum placements for the IUP students listed below.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion, move to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. All opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, operational services. There is nothing on the agenda. Move to item 10, board business, election of 2026 PSBA officers. This is for board consideration at the September combined meeting. Motion to approve the casting of a vote on behalf of Pine-Richland School District for the following individuals to serve a one-year term as officers for PSBA. Holly Arnold as president-elect, Matt Vanoy as vice president for a one-year terms, and Antonio Paris and Eric Meredith as W3 sectional advisors for a 2-year term. All candidates are the sole candidates for the positions indicated. Any comments from PSBA or all good? Okay. Item 10.02, this is an information item for board consideration at the September combined meeting. Motion to elect Kathy Swoop and Roberta Marcus as trustees on the board of the PSBA Insurance Trust for the 3-year term. Any comments from PSBA reps on this? No? Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 11, meeting closing reports. Any reports from members? No? Okay. All right, let's move on to 11.02, recognition of visitors. We moved quick today, huh, Mrs. Williams? All right, she'll grab the sheet. We'll be right with everyone. 6 people, okay.
First speaker is Ann Myers.
Hello, Ann Myers, Valley View Drive, and I have some comments about the board discussion tonight regarding the stakeholder survey results. Regarding Mr. Morissette's statement on how little the stakeholder survey represents the community, sir, How many different ways can you tell parents in this district that they don't matter? Your dismissive attitude is beyond disappointing continually, though not surprising. To Mr. Wheathorn's comment regarding facilitating conversation, a great start would be actually responding to the people who do show up here via email or otherwise. Dr. Miller already spoke to your wish to engage teachers, and I'd like to add, how do you expect teachers or staff to feel comfortable when the board majority has ceaselessly undermined and devalued our teachers? Your first step could be correcting or owning up to that. Ashley, thank you for your entirely reasonable suggestions for board goals for the year. Mrs. Miller, I am encouraged by your enthusiasm to do school visits. It's really nice to see that you're interested in engaging with the schools. And this is actually the reason that I decided to speak tonight, was your comment that it's not a reasonable expectation maybe for school board members to attend school visits, and particularly that it's really hard on Mr. Wheathorn to take time off work. And I am understanding of this predicament. However, there are lots of full-time working parents that volunteer a lot of their time for our schools. And many parents, especially those on the PTOs, that give hundreds of unpaid hours to our schools every year. And on a personal level, with my job, I don't get paid time off. So if I miss a day of work to volunteer at the schools, which I do, and I lose all the money I could have made that day, or I have to rearrange my entire schedule. But that's a choice that I make as a volunteer, just as it is every school board member's choice to volunteer for the positions that you have now. I would encourage you to keep all of this in mind when you are discussing unreasonable expectations. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jen Buse.
Good evening, Jen Buse. I have 3 kids in the district still. 1 graduated and in the high school and the Eden Hall, and I'm a taxpayer. I wanted to start by sharing my appreciation with all of the building staff, the principals, the administration, the teachers, the front desks have really created a welcoming environment, and my 3 kids have all been prepared to begin this year, and so far so good. To the students who've shown up, some repeatedly, some for the first time, to witness this board's action and bravely speak to implore the board to acknowledge and even celebrate your existence, I wish you didn't feel the need to spend your time and emotional effort bearing your soul in hopes this board can make you feel safe and welcomed at Pine-Richland. I am curious, Ms. Miller, with some reflection, how might our teachers who overwhelmingly voted no confidence in May in you, Ms. Miller, Mr. Morissette, Ms. Hillman, Ms. Brusalis, and Mr. Wheathorn, in respecting and supporting them? Mr. Morissette, I noticed in your comments how you completely ignored the teachers' satisfaction with the board. Mr. Wheathorn, I'm curious what might be the reasons behind the board's satisfaction from parents. You may be interested to know that if you listen to public commentary, which has broadened in number of folks and new voices, continuing to show up for a sustained time, that you might have a clue about the reasons for the parent satisfaction. Students have been attending begging for you to listen to them. Some have shared their experience with books this board has targeted and called pornographic. Looking at you, Ms. Miller. Teachers, counselors, principals, admin have spoken at board meetings repeatedly, begging for you to listen to them and support them with resources and not wasted efforts that you're requiring them to do for the counseling curriculum, despite the fact that the entire K through 6 families have practically opted into counseling lessons. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Chris Bono.
Chris Bono, one child in the district. I want to talk first about the response rate and Mr. Morissette's comments about how we have feedback from the parents and from some students and from some staff members. But that's only really a fraction of who the board represents, because the board represents everybody in Pine-Richland, not just people in the school. So I wonder, Mr. Morissette, how many people voted for you to get in that seat? It was a hell of a lot less than 25% of the district, or 20% in the district. Hell, I can't even vote against you because you're not in my district, in my region. So when we're talking about who do we represent, it seems to me the people who follow us most, right, are the parents and the staff. They're the ones who are paying attention to what you're doing. And we can say that there shouldn't be any questions about the board on there, but you made a big deal about talking about a whole bunch of trends, and you left out this one, which has cratered under your leadership. I mean, I've not seen 23% in a long time. Oh, I mean, that's bad. That's bad. So when we talk about who we're representing, I think we should be, we should be careful about that, because this represents a much more representative group of folks than the people who put you in that seat. Second, what could possibly be behind the numbers? Right? And that's a great question. We should always interrogate the meaning behind data, because they're just numbers. So I want to present to you all Occam's razor, which some of you may be familiar with, but others clearly aren't. Occam's razor basically says that when you have multiple competing explanations for something, the simplest one is the one that's most likely to be true. So what is the simplest explanation for why your support among staff and parents has cratered over the past couple years? I suggest looking in the mirror.
Our next speaker is Bob Stein.
Hello, Bob Stein. I have 2 children in the district. I just wanted to comment on Ms. Fortier and Ms. Miller's comments about the school visits, both formal and informal. As a parent who is actively involved in the schools as a lunchroom volunteer, school trip chaperone, homeroom parent, I'm telling you, being in the schools and seeing where the magic is, that is amazing. I've never left any of the buildings without seeing in awe of what the educators and the staff have achieved. I've communicated that with Dr. Miller and Mr. Morissette, and it's just amazing. So I was very encouraged by those comments, and I encourage all of you, formally and informally, to step inside the schools and see the children in action. I know I've seen Ms. Brusalis several times in the schools that I've been in, but I think it's just amazing. So I encourage it all, and I thank you for those comments.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Eddie Bozar.
Hello, my name is Eddie Bozar. I am a former student at Pine-Richland. I'm class of 2020. Not the best year to graduate, unfortunately, but I went to Wexford Elementary all the way back when they still had trailers at the elementary school. And I just want to say I know a lot of the board members and the administrators care a lot about the school. I find a lot of these comments despicable. They're wrong focused. I mean, if we're talking always about these books, so I'm on the library board at Northern Tier, and I just wonder the circulation amount at the high school. We look at the circulation amount at Northern Tier every month. We have great numbers at the Northern Tier Library, but at the high school, I wonder how many books are actually checked out. Are kids even reading? So I just want to comment on that. Another thing is I am running as an independent for the school board for Region 1 in the fall. If I am elected, I am looking forward to working with the board because I know everybody here cares for the school. So thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Brittany Kindersmith.
Hello, Brittany Kindersmith, Richland Township. I just had a thought about one of the numbers, Mr. Morissette, that you pulled out from the survey results. It was the 65% of students feeling like I don't remember the exact metric, but something about them, like their interests being seen by the staff in the classroom. And I am curious how you would expect staff to consider individual student interests in class when they have a cookie-cutter curriculum that they are mandated to follow under your ever-watchful eye. If the number of respondents and what slice of the electorate they represent is a concern to you, Mr. Morissette, why doesn't your board organize a satisfaction survey for the people you are representing? Thank you, Mrs. Fortier, for setting some goals based on the survey results. I agree with the fact that making it a priority to spend some time in the schools as board members, since you want to affect so much change in them, and observing the amazing teachers that you seem to have such little faith in would be a nice place to start. Thanks.
Last speaker.
Okay, that's the last speaker.
Yes.
All right. We will move to 12 adjournment. That adjourns